Welcome to A Moment in Time with Nex. Today I am doing a review on this book, The Money School by Nicole Lapin. This way. I found her through an article that I saw her write about income taxes that really got me excited because she was speaking my language. It felt like a like-minded person, and I grabbed her book, which did have a beautiful cover on it, but when I was opening the package, I accidentally cut the cover, so now I just have I'm glad that it has the name kind of engraved on here, so I still know what book it is. But yeah, excellent book. I'm giving this book 5 stars, and I'm going to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit of what it's about and why I liked it so much. First and foremost, this book gave me imposter syndrome because I'm writing a book right now about money, which is part of how I ended up coming across this, because in my research for my book, I came across her article, and this book just came out last year, so it's really fresh information from someone who's currently in the world of finance and trying to make it attainable and accessible to all people. And I really, really love that, and that's a big shared interest that we have. So I'm really excited to dive into this with you and strongly suggest that you check this out, because I don't have the energy, I guess, to kind of pour into going into all of the details of this book. I would just really encourage you to get it for yourself, either buying it or listening to it on audiobook. You know I love to give you a summary and review of these books, but in this case, there's just so much in there that you really have to get it for yourself to get the full value. But I'll give you some highlights for sure. So I got imposter syndrome reading it because it's written so well. It's really well put together. You can tell this is not her first rodeo. She's very well versed in the information, and she's a really talented author, or her editor, whoever. It's just really, really well put together, and it makes me want to do even better and really put a lot of work and effort into my book so that it can be as useful to you as this one, although I lack the experience and qualifications of this author. So let's get into it. In the book, she breaks this down into 4 separate courses. So just like the title implies, it's the money school, and it's written like a course, kind of like a curriculum for anyone. Whether you've ever invested ever in your life before or not, this is a great book for you, especially for beginners, in my opinion. So course 1 is the stock market. It's great fundamentals. She lays out a lot of great terms. In the back of the book, she even has a full dictionary that kind of breaks down all these different terms and acronyms that you hear in the financial world to make it less exclusive and more accessible so that anyone can do this. The second course is the fixed income market, and this is probably the course that most immediately benefited me in reading this, and I'll get into that in a minute. Course 3 is advanced markets, commodities, currencies, and derivatives like options and futures. And then course 4 is your portfolio. So let me break this down. In the second class of the course, titled Stocks 201, Blocking and Tackling, Nicole breaks down the 5 golden rules of investing that I'm going to share with you now. Number 1, gains of 7 to 10% in the stock market are trends, not promises. Other investors and I tout these returns for the stock market because we think it's important for you to know the data and the likelihood of positive outcomes. But past performance does not guarantee future returns. Number 2, you are not protected from bad decisions. The stock market is not your understanding parent and does not cover your mistakes or lapses in judgment. If you put your money in a sketchy company and the company fails, you will lose whatever you put into it. Number 3, you have not made money on a stock until you've sold it. If you own a stock that has doubled in value, you haven't made any money on it yet. Dividends are the exception, which I'll explain in a sec, but overall, think of this as the hard and fast rule. This is a very common misconception that drives me absolutely nuts. Someone will tell me that if they bought a stock for $5 and now it's $10, that their profit is double their investment. No, that's wrong. You really only profit on an investment when you sell the investment. Your brokerage account is not your bank account. You can't buy groceries with your Apple shares. The money in your brokerage account is only yours to spend once you cash out an investment. Number 4, you have not lost money on a stock either until you've sold it. Similar to Rule 3, you haven't officially lost money on a stock until you sell the stock at a lower price than what you bought it for, or if the stock goes to zero. The stock market goes up and down. That's what it does. If the company you're invested in is only down and not out, you're not SOL. Don't fall into the trap of panic selling because you're mourning paper losses. Number 5, buy low, sell high. And those are Nicole Lapin's 5 golden rules of investing. And I think that's a really great understanding, especially for the beginner. Many of us may know this, which is why I really started to gain value myself from the second chunk, which was the fixed income markets, where she dives into bonds, certificates of deposit, all the boring investments, the things that give you kind of small returns and aren't necessarily super exciting. You're not going to get rich quick with investing in bonds, so to speak. So oftentimes people say that you want to be split between stocks and bonds. This is a very simplified version of asset allocation, saying that you're going to have some stocks and some bonds. So if you don't know what a bond is, get the book or just Google bonds. You can learn about all of these things. But really the idea behind having an investment in something like a bond is that it's just about as close to guaranteed returns as you can get, especially depending on the quality of the bond that you get and the quality of the person who's giving you their bond. Right now, the US government would be considered someone who's never defaulted on their bonds so far. So we expect them to pay us back. If they say they're going to give us 4% yearly interest over the next 9 months in a bond, or that's a short term, that would be more like a certificate of deposit agreement. But the idea is that you loan them money, they give you a small amount back in a fixed amount of time, and it's just about guaranteed. They promise they're going to give it to you. If they're able to or not will remain to be seen. But when you're dealing with government bonds, generally they're considered lower risk than something like a corporate bond, getting a bond or getting the word of a company. So I digress. What I had been doing up until reading this book is I had been invested in BND, which is Vanguard's bond market fund. It's an ETF similar to a total market index fund. This is a bond market index fund. So instead of tracking the stock market, it tracks the bond market. So it's intended to emulate and represent the whole bond market, which to me seemed to make a lot of sense. Then I don't have to hand select bonds. I don't have to deal with going to treasurydirect.gov and buying bonds directly from the government with some archaic old user interface that they have on the government website. So I thought, oh, this just makes it easy and I can have a certain percentage of my assets in bonds and be a nice, responsible investor. And I had just started to diversify my assets around that time. So I invested in BND. I felt good about my decision. And then over the past few years, I had actually lost 3% of my value on the money that I put into BND. It had gone down about 3% over the time that I had been buying it. And I realized, well, that's kind of dumb. The whole point of having bonds is that it's low risk and it's just about guaranteed returns. So if you're losing money on bonds, something ain't right. You know, your strategy needs some tweaking. So I actually ended up selling off all my BND. I'm not very wealthy, so I don't have massive holdings in these things, and I don't max out the amount you're allowed to do these things or come anywhere near them. But what I did is I sold off my BND holdings and I'm moving it, still waiting for the money to kind of move around, but I will be moving it into a CD, a certificate of deposit, where I will be just about guaranteed to get that money back after a period of however long I've chosen. And I am so glad that I read this book and made that change, because this book gave me the confidence to realize that. Just using basic logic, the whole idea of bonds is that it's low risk and almost guaranteed returns. So if you're losing money on bonds, you need to change your bond strategy. She didn't have to say that in the book because people probably don't often lose money on bonds. But investing in something like a bond market fund is different than having bonds. And that kind of connection was created for me in reading this book. So big shout out and thank you to Nicole Lapin for helping me to be smarter with my investments and make a more sensible choice with where I'm putting my money and why. I like that the author dives into the more advanced markets, the commodities, the derivatives, the currencies, forex, calls, options, puts, all these things, those are options. Anyway, um, all of these kind of unique and niche, I would say, investing strategies. But so not only does she educate you about these and let you know what they are and how people do these things, she also does a really solid job of kind of guiding you gently away from them, unless you are a very, very seasoned professional investor. You have some kind of special knowledge on some of these commodities or markets or currencies. But generally speaking, the average investor, especially a beginning investor, is probably going to be much better served by other investment options. But at least she's giving us the full understanding. So at least we kind of know what people are talking about when they're talking about futures or commodities or forex, all cryptocurrencies, these kinds of things. Like, she gives us some info about them, but doesn't she's definitely not advocating for you to go put a big risk and be overly confident and go try to make it big in the commodities market. Do what you want. I'm not a financial advisor, but I think she did a really solid job presenting the information and then doing her fiduciary duty to warn you against the risks of playing that game. And maybe if you are going to play that game, just make sure it's a very small percentage of your portfolio, the amount that you're willing to gamble and risk, the speculative aspect of your portfolio, which for me is only 5%. For you, it might be more. That's up to you. And then finally, in course 4, she does a really good job summarizing all the tools, everything that you need to be successful as an investor, even if you've never invested in anything yet. Because after you read this book or listen to this book on audiobook, I think you'll feel a lot more confident to start getting out there and getting your feet wet. And if you want to discuss with me, you can comment on this video or slide in the DMs. I love talking about various companies and industries. You can pick my brain and get my opinions on things. I'm not a financial advisor. I have no certifications or qualifications. Please do not take anything that I say as financial advice. I'm simply here to be educational and entertaining to some extent. I think that's the liability, right? Entertainment and education purposes. We're just lay people discussing information. I definitely don't want you to take anything. If I say I like a stock, that doesn't mean you should go buy it. And even if I like a stock, it doesn't mean that it's a good price right now. So always make sure that you're using your own brain and your own set of values and systems, because you really have to have some kind of system with investing that is separate from just your own hunches and your own emotions. Because if you're just going based on emotion, you're more likely to have a really tough time than if you're more diligent about asset allocation. That part of the book, when she got into asset allocation, to me felt like it was lacking a little bit. But in hindsight, when I looked back at it, I said, she really does cover what she needs to cover here. And I think I was just a little bit spoiled by Tony Robbins's book, Money, Master the Game, where he kind of goes over these different really successful financial investors and talks in pretty good depth about all of their different portfolios and why. And I really liked that in his book, but his book was also his thing was like 500 pages, I think, maybe more. It was like so much thicker than this book. So it's not fair for me to expect a 200 something page book to have that much detail about that. But I guess because that for me is where I'm at in my investing journey and where I would really like to kind of explore more options and nuance with asset allocation and see what else people are thinking and doing. I kind of felt like I missed that a little bit from this book. So if you're a very advanced investor, maybe not the best book for you, but if you want to start learning how to invest, which I know is a big part of my community, this is a great book to get you kickstarted into figuring out how to get that going for you. That's The Money School by Nicole Lapin. I give it 5 stars. And if you like me in this channel, please consider subscribing, following, supporting, sharing, commenting, liking, whatever the heck, all the things that help out. You can support on the website and maybe subscribe on YouTube somehow. I don't know. I just work here Okay, I love you. You are worthy of being loved and feeling comfortable in your own skin. This has been a moment in time with Nex. Expreme diem, squeeze the day, and I hope to see you real soon on a live stream or a next book review. I'm currently reading Warren Buffett's biography, The Snowball, but it's 700 pages long, so I might read something else before I actually finish that. And either way, I'll be coming back to you with a book review as soon as I can. Love you, bye!